Why INFJs are too private. Why do INFJs share so much insight, yet so little about themselves? Why do they speak in ways that clarify confusion, name emotions others can't articulate, and connect ideas with uncanny precision, but gently sidestep questions about their own inner world? Why do they listen with full presence, understand the emotional undercurrents in the room, offer words that feel almost personal in how accurately they land, yet still remain emotionally out of reach? Why does it feel like you know an INFJ? You trust their perspective. You feel deeply understood by them. Yet somehow, you can't quite step inside their world. This isn't secrecy. It isn't manipulation. And it isn't emotional coldness. It's protection. And once you understand why INFJs are so private, you'll realize it's not distance you're feeling. It's depth. Stay with this. Because what looks like privacy is actually one of the most misunderstood traits associated with the INFJ personality type in the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator System. INFJs are not private because they lack depth. They're private because they have too much of it. INFJs live in a rich internal world. Not a loud one. Not a chaotic one. But a layered one. Their thoughts don't arrive in straight lines. They move in patterns, symbols, connections. One idea leads quietly to another. And another, until meaning forms beneath the surface. Their emotions rarely show up alone. They arrive carrying context, memory, implication. A feeling is never just a feeling. It's a message. Their inner dialogue doesn't switch off. It refines, questions, synthesizes. Even in silence, something is unfolding. So when INFJs speak, they're not reacting. They're translating. They're pulling from reflection. From long internal processing, from something that has already been lived with privately. To speak casually about what matters to them would feel like taking something sacred and placing it where it might be mishandled. This is why INFJs don't overshare. Not because they are afraid, but because they are reverent. They understand that depth deserves care. And not everyone knows how to sit with depth without trying to fix it, categorize it, or flatten it into something easier to digest. So INFJs choose privacy, not as a barrier, but as respect for their inner life. INFJs learned early that not everyone is safe. Many INFJs became private, long before they ever thought of it as a trait. Not because they wanted to hide, but because experience taught them quietly that openness didn't always lead to connection. Sometimes it led to dismissal, to being talked over, to being misunderstood in subtle, discouraging ways. Sometimes it led to being told they were too sensitive, too intense, too much. Sometimes it led to emotional overwhelm, where their honesty invited chaos instead of care. So they adapted. They learned to observe before expressing, to listen before revealing, to feel the emotional temperature of a space before placing anything vulnerable into it. They learned that safety is not automatic. It's sensed. Privacy became how they stayed intact. Not walls. Filters. INFJs feel everything more intensely than they show. One of the most misunderstood INFJ traits is emotional intensity. INFJs feel deeply, often far more deeply than they ever display. But because they process emotions internally, their intensity doesn't announce itself. It doesn't spill outward. It doesn't demand attention. It settles inward. A comment echoes longer than expected. A shift in tone becomes significant. A small moment turns symbolic, carrying layers that continue unfolding over time. While others move on, INFJs are still integrating, not because they want to dwell, but because their minds are built to extract meaning. So INFJs become private, because emotional exposure has weight. Sharing something personal is not a casual exchange for them. It opens an internal door. And once opened, it doesn't immediately close. Privacy allows them to regulate how much of themselves is open at any given moment. INFJs separate understanding others from being understood. INFJs are often exceptional listeners. They ask questions that feel intentional. They notice what's not said. They remember details that matter to you, even if you forgot you ever mentioned them. They create emotional space naturally. But being understood themselves feels entirely different. Understanding others is intuitive. Being understood requires risk. Because to be understood deeply, INFJs must reveal nuance, contradiction, emotional complexity. And complexity is frequently mishandled. It gets simplified, dismissed, or misinterpreted in ways that feel distorting. So INFJs hold back until they sense emotional intelligence. On the other side, privacy becomes patience, waiting for the kind of presence that can hold what they carry. INFJs are selective, not secretive. This distinction matters. INFJs are not hiding. They are choosing. They don't open everything at once. They open in layers. The first layer is warmth, curiosity, insight. The second layer is values, beliefs, how they interpret the world and human behavior. The inner layer is delicate. It holds fears, unspoken hopes, old wounds, and deeply personal meaning. Very few people reach this center. Not because INFJs believe they are superior, but because access requires patience, consistency, emotional resonance. Privacy is how INFJs protect what matters most. INFJs don't trust easily because trust is emotional exposure. For an INFJ, trust is not just reliability. It is emotional safety. It means, I can be quiet here. I can be uncertain here. I can be intense here without being corrected or minimized. Until those experiences happen naturally, privacy remains. This is why INFJs can appear open, yet still feel distant. They are present. They are attentive. They are sincere. But the inner door stays closed until alignment is felt, not promised, felt. And when it opens slowly, with intention, and with care. Because for an INFJ, privacy is not distance. It is discernment. INFJs are private because they process before they share. INFJs do not speak impulsively. Their first response is rarely verbal. It is internal. They reflect. They analyze. They search for patterns beneath the feeling. An emotion, for an INFJ, is not immediately clear. It unfolds. It connects to past experiences, values, implications, and possible outcomes. By the time they fully understand what they feel, the moment that required a quick response has often already passed. So they hold it, not because they lack something to say, but because they refuse to say something incomplete. Their inner world moves at a different pace than the external world expects. The world rewards immediacy. INFJs prioritize accuracy. Privacy gives them time. Time to clarify. Time to refine. Time to ensure that what they share actually reflects their truth, not just a fragment of it. INFJs fear being misunderstood more than being alone. This is a quiet truth many people miss. INFJs can tolerate solitude. They often need it. What they struggle with is being seen incorrectly, being reduced to a label, flattened into a stereotype, told they are too sensitive, too intense, too quiet, too much. Misunderstanding feels invasive to them. It distorts something they worked hard to understand within themselves. Privacy protects them from being simplified. They would rather be unknown than inaccurately known. Solitude feels neutral. Misinterpretation feels violating. So they stay private until they sense someone is capable of nuance. INFJs feel responsible for emotional impact. INFJs think before they speak, because they feel responsible for how their words land. They don't want to burden others with unprocessed emotion. They don't want to overwhelm. They don't want to disrupt emotional equilibrium unnecessarily. They are acutely aware that words carry weight. So they edit themselves internally. They revise. They soften. They choose timing carefully. What you hear from an INFJ is often the distilled version of something much deeper, heavier, and more complex. Privacy becomes a form of emotional care, not avoidance. Consideration. INFJs open fully only where there is resonance. When INFJs do open up, it is unmistakable. The depth arrives suddenly. The honesty is quiet but profound. The presence is steady and intentional. They don't test the waters with vulnerability. They step in only when the water feels right. And when they do, their loyalty is unwavering. This is why INFJ relationships feel rare and intense. They don't share often. But when they do, it is deliberate. Privacy makes their openness meaningful. Without it, their depth would be diluted. If you are an INFJ, your privacy is not a flaw. You are not distant. You are discerning. You are not closed. You are careful. You are not hiding. You are honoring your inner world. Within frameworks like the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, INFJs are often described as intuitive and empathetic. But what's less understood is how much protection that empathy requires. Your privacy protects your depth, your intuition, and your emotional integrity. And when you finally let someone in, it's not because you were persuaded. It's because something registered as safe. And for an INFJ, safety is everything.